So what could possibly happen if you plant your tomatoes a little bit too early in the season and leave them indoors too long? So this happens to be exactly one of the reasons why I make this channel, because I make a lot of mistakes and I'm posting my learning process. So behind me are my tomatoes that I started, I think almost early March, because I wanted a head start. But now they're root bound in these pots, which I got to change. But I don't know if I really want to pot up right now, since I'm going to be transplanting them into my raised bed garden once that's finished being built, or if I just kind of leave them in those things. So had I planted these at the appropriate time, they might have been a little bit smaller than this. Some of them wouldn't be flowering like they are, and they'd be in a lot better shape. Now, I planted two varieties. I planted San Marzano and I planted a beefsteak slicer tomato. So I'm gonna pick 4 of the strongest of each and keep them to plant in the garden over there, and the other ones are going in the compost back there. But I was gonna give them away to some friends and family, but they bought their own from the store. So I literally just got to finish breaking down a couple of those skids behind me to make the lower section of this raised bed, the second tier, the lower tier of this raised bed, and then fill it and I can plant my tomatoes. But as you can see, I have maybe 8 feet long, so that means 8 by 1. I got about 8 plants, maybe 7-8 plants that I can plant in there for a tomato to have proper spacing. I got way too many tomatoes. I got like 24 out there. All right, so this guy's pretty weak, as you can see. So I'll show you what's kind of going on in here, and we'll see how it's looking. So to take a plant out of these, generally just squeeze it, they should pop out. And I'm actually pretty surprised that there's not that many roots. So this guy just wasn't doing good, so he's going in the compost. What I did was brush off the excess soil in the garden, because why waste it? This one also is looking pretty rough. It's almost like it's crusted and dried out. So this one's going in the compost as well. You can see I have these little pots here. These were things I bought off Amazon. Had I planted them at an appropriate time, they might be okay still and might be perfect in this, but I have a feeling that some of these are starting to get root bound. This one's not too bad actually, so maybe they aren't as root bound as I thought. They're just very long and stunted. Here we have an example of a keeper. It's in one of those small pots as well, but as you can see, it's still green, doesn't look as crispy as the other ones. It stands up by itself, which is a perk. And let's just take a peek inside the pot here. There you go. There's a great example. So this thing's healthy, but as you can see, it's super root bound. Here we have one of my beefsteak slicers. This one's very tall and getting towards mature. It basically stands up by itself, and it's looking green and healthy, so this as well is a keeper. So we can see just how root bound all of these are. It's not a great thing. I was actually just watching a video today by James Pigioni. He was saying that he plants his tomatoes in April and essentially transplant them while they're still in the growing stage instead of the root bound stage, which means they're going to halt their growing because they're confined, and then when you transplant them into the garden, they're going to have to get into growing mode again. So if you plant them when they're in growing mode already, they should just take off. So here we have the 4 San Marzano and the 4 beefsteak tomatoes that I will be planting in the garden. These ones were the healthiest out of the bunch, and yeah, next year I'll know better. So I also planted my peppers at the same time that I did my tomatoes. So why don't they look as crappy? So I'd say about 2 weeks ago, I made a video about these things in the self-watering seed tray. The leaves are all curled up and they didn't look very healthy. So I potted them up into these little black pots that I have here. And that is the sole reason. They got moved out of the constant water, got put under a better grow light with more distance between it, and they have more room to grow. So these got potted up, so they're in the growing stage. These are going to be great for transplanting in the garden right now.
I hope you take the opportunity to learn from my mistakes. Make sure to hit that subscribe, comment below, and like this video. And stay tuned for the updates. As always, you can find the most recent video in the top left, a related video in the bottom left, and the subscribe button on the right hand side.